Virtual real estate. What the heck is it? And is it a total scam? Is it a gold mine? Is it just a beanie baby fad that's just going to pass right through? Or is it something that you need to know? Well, regardless, we're going to share with you exactly the pros and the cons of virtual real estate and whether it might be something you want to take a look at. This is Scale Through the Fail. What's up and good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Bean. I am the host of Scale Through the Fail, and we've got a fun one today. I feel like I say the same words we got a fun one today. We got an exciting one today. Well, listen, I'm excited because today we're actually going to talk about something a little wild and crazy. We're going to be talking about virtual real estate. We actually have a special guest that will be coming on shortly that is heavily involved in virtual real estate, AI, crypto, you name it. Cannot wait to have them come in and share their opinion on virtual real estate, as well as a couple other things. But of course, we need to get into what's going on with mortgage this week because, guys, it's pretty exciting. Like if there was a time to tune in, like this is not one of those weeks where we go, well, nothing really changed. It's boring, but at least no, this is an exciting one. So I think it's time for what the mortgage is going on. All right, let's bring in Larry. What's up, brother? Good morning. How you feeling today? Bro, where'd your mic go? You just had it on.
It was unmuted. It was
I was like, we just tested this. What happened? Man, Thank you for joining us. I know actually you aren't feeling too hot today, and you're still like, man, I'm here. I'm here anyway.
So, apparently I got hit with the vid.
The vid, is that what you call it over on what, you're Texas?
I'm from Texas, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Texans call it, the vid. The vid.
The vid or
I think
19.
I got some of that vid.
Got hit by the 19.
Probably got it from the water trough.
Actually, I got it from the boys, probably.
That's a lot more likely.
Yeah. They're like a magnet for germs.
Larry, I gotta ask you, what the mortgage is going on this week?
Oh man, yeah. We've been pretty boring for the last couple of shows, but today's show is actually pretty exciting. I mean, let's just say what we've been waiting for has finally started to happen. Okay. Whenever inflation it hits a certain point, the Fed reacts by increasing rates and such. And I know it sounds like if the Fed increased rates, that means mortgage rates are supposed to go up. It's actually supposed to have kind of like the inverse effect, right? Like if they increase rates, people automatically think, oh, then mortgage rates are going to go up. But it actually kind of works the opposite direction, right? So there's a little bit of a lag in reaction, but we've had the lowest rates since September, okay, because of the inflation data. Okay, so what does that mean? Lowest rates in 4 months? Well,
let's talk about it. Right, boom.
We're literally in the low sixes, and we're knocking on the fives.
Woo!
Okay,
knock. My future is here.
Yes, so 3, 4s, and 5s is what we're kind of used to for like the last, let's say 5 years, right? 6s and 7s were kind of a shock. So as you can see,
right, it was an overcorrection because of what happened with inflation and prices. It's like it's shocked us because we just hadn't seen it visually, but it shouldn't have shocked us mentally because it makes complete sense that we needed to correct the craziness that we were going through.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where we kind of took advantage of the low rates. a year ago, right? Like everyone and their moms was buying a house or refinancing or whatever, right? So it was kind of a feeding frenzy, so to speak, right? So because of that, it had to sort of, like you say, correct itself. And us lenders, we saw it coming. We didn't know how high, but we're like, rates are going to go up, rates are going to go up, because it's easy to predict that because rates were so low, right?
Yeah.
So they went up. But yes, it shouldn't have been a shock because we should have seen it coming. We should have been prepared for it. In fact, all my clients, I prepared them for it. I was like, listen, if you don't refinance now, just be prepared for a higher rate. And of course, it was me trying to help them, but I wasn't trying to trick them into refinancing. I firmly believed that if they don't refinance now, they're going to miss out. I really, truly believe that. I wasn't trying to sell them something, right?
So let's talk about the MBS, because that's also looking pretty sweet right now too.
Yes. So if you remember last week, I talked about how the last time the MBS was over 100 was a couple of months ago, and that's when the rates were a little bit easier to accept, right?
Yeah.
They were again in the 3s, 4s, and 5s ish, right? And since then, they've barely hit 100. They've always been under 100, like 99, 98.
Yeah, we've seen that week over week. There's just not much change. Nothing really to talk about. I mean, but man, this week we got a lot of green. Got a lot of green in the right places.
Yes. So again, yeah. So this is basically the everything, including the bonds, finally deciding to show that they like inflation numbers. People are reacting to the inflation numbers and looking at them positively, right? Which, of course, again, we talk about the MBS being a major impact on interest rates. So the higher the price goes, the more positivity people have about mortgage-backed securities. That's what MBS stands for. The lower the rate should be, right?
So when we compare kind of all the products together, which it looks like all across the board, which MBS is the direct, I mean, one of the strongest ways that directly affects interest rates. So it's awesome to see the jumbo, VA, FHA, arms, and everything like that. Everything's just looking really positive. And, I'll be honest, I was a little concerned because last week we had a strong jobs report, and that usually does not go. Most people don't understand that, like, a strong jobs report is not good typically for interest rates. It's the opposite. And so, like, people are like, oh, strong job reports, that's amazing, interest rates are coming down. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, they could be going up from that, because that's what happened. What was it, November, when Powell said, oh man, the spending wasn't right, the jobs report came back too strong, we're gonna just hike interest rates even more. And like, it was brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah. So again, there's so many factors that affect the way rates look, and the job report did slow things down a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just inflation data was just positive to the bond market, right? Yeah. So that kind of took over, and as you can see, FHA, VA, jumbo, the 15-year fixed, they're on the 5s, right? So if you're the kind of bar that wants to be in the 5s, you can always go to FHA if you want to, and lock a rate in the 5s, right?
Yeah, because people got some options now. Like I had someone who locked in Tennessee. It's a THDA loan. Almost every state has a first-time homebuyer program, and so I saw someone lock a solid. Well, I think it was a 6, and that was before this rate adjustment, because those programs don't adjust daily like a mortgage broker would. Those programs are like, okay, for the next 3 months, anybody who jumps into the program, you're going to get this 6%. So I thought that was really exciting to see for first-time home buyers, because they were afraid of a 7. And so for them to lock it in at 6 is a very positive indicator, in my opinion. Of course, it's just an opinion.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said about the first-time home buyer programs and such, they do sort of dictate their own rates based on what's happening. So it shows that everyone's kind of getting on the same page, right? So the big takeaways are, we've seen the lowest rates in 4 months after inflation data. What does that mean? Well, now is a good time to buy. If you haven't been under contract yet, it's time to get under contract right away, because you are able to take advantage of the rates. Because, not saying that the rates are going to go back up, but we've been waiting for them to go down, right? That's what we've all been
Well,
waiting
it's all
for.
a gamble too, right?
Mhm.
Everybody who says, "I'm gonna wait for X, Y, and Z to happen," they're never they're always late to take advantage, and they usually pay more. I mean, that's a statistical, not just in real estate, that's in retail. I'm gonna wait for the sale, and then the sale comes, and then you find out, "Oh, I didn't buy it, or I didn't budget for it, or it's not as good as a sale as I thought." And so, like, people are shooting themselves in the foot, like,
Or
don't
the
do that.
size, or the size doesn't fit. They ran out of your size,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, that's the same thing as like, oh, the house I want is no longer there because the people who were preemptive bought the house. You know,
All right, so
um,
lowest rates in 4 months,
yeah,
Thursday
and
CPI.
yeah. So the CPI was released Thursday, which is what we've been kind of waiting for, right? And it's been consistent with October and November. So many in the, of course, in economics have viewed that as a sign of a shift away from the hyperinflation of 2022. Okay. So what does that mean?
Let's hope
Big
so.
picture. Yeah. Big picture. The craziness should be changing. That's basically what they're saying, right? So because of that, the bond prices are changing, MBS is increasing, and of course mortgage rates are going down, right? That's basically what that means, right? We've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we're happy. So let's go ahead and do good things, right? Even if it's even if it's merely heading in the right direction, like it's barely there, it's not really there. It's a big win for interest rates. Okay, because
Agreed.
again, this is what we've all been waiting for. There's been a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. Now it's
Yeah.
more like, okay, things are starting to react the way they're supposed to.
And finally, bonds said, "You know what? We'll play nice.
Mhm. Absolutely.
We'll play nice with inflation." Okay, fine. So, Larry, you know what time it is, right?
The funny fact? Yeah.
It's time for what the
WTFF.
funny fact, because we love to break up. Let's be real, interest rates and mortgage bonds, they can be pretty boring. Today, I don't think they were boring. I think they were pretty exciting. We have fun. We try our best, but we also like to break it up with a couple games here and there. So this is what the funny fact, random funny facts that make you go, "What the funny fact?" or "What the FF?"
WTFF.
So, Larry, you ready for this?
Yes.
I'm not actually going to say the name because I'm going to have you guess how you pronounce this, okay? That is the fear of feathers tickling you. I want to know, how do you think it's said? I'll put it back for you so you can look.
Terranophobia.
Hey, that's pretty much exactly right. I don't even know. I like practiced it last night and I still can't remember. It's like pteronophobia. It's something like that.
Terranophobia. Yeah, because I look like pterodactyl. I think
Yeah,
pterodactyl
yeah,
starts with a P
exactly.
too.
I actually thought that was funny. So I'm like, so is a pterodactyl just like big feather bird or something? Like, is that what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is?
I think there's a relation. Like maybe it's something about birds or flight or something. So yeah.
Yeah. So I look at that and I go, dang, that really limits their betting options, though.
Yeah, it does. It does
I
for
kind of
sure.
I kind of had this image in my head of like this person, and they're just standing in a dark alley, and they're like, prepare to. And then they pull out a feather, and then they're like laughing. I just like that's how I picture the fear, like the fear showing up, and
S-
it's like,
so these names of these different fears. I mean, how many different fears can they be? It must be infinite, right? It
mhm.
makes me think that there's
And
literally no
you can fear
limit.
everything. So then they just come up with a really awesome name for it, like
Yeah, so I think
paranophobia.
there's almost like no limit to how many words can be created. If you think about the different types of fears, I mean, the fear of being tickled by a feather, the fear of being tickled by a hair, the fear of being tickled by
There's
a baseball
literally,
bat,
I think I
right? I
saw
mean,
this on Mr. Beast. There's a fear of not just clowns, of clowns standing outside looking into your bedroom while you sleep.
see, that's crazy. How many combinations of words that is, right? I mean, the same thing, but while you're awake, right? The same thing, but standing inside. I mean, there's so
All
many
right,
different
we're getting carried
combinations.
away. We gotta move on. But listen, if that made you say, "What the f," leave a comment with your random funny fact, and we might feature it in a future episode. I always have to think twice because I'm like, I don't actually end up wanting to swear. That'll break my perfect record of never swearing out loud ever. I think one time I swore in Korean though, and I didn't know, so I don't count it when it's innocent. You know,
Yeah, I
people
think
do that. You're like, how do you say that in Korean? And then like you say it, and then like the old lady looks at you and she's, oh, how dare you say that? Like,
right, right.
all right, let's wrap it up. So today we learned that interest rates are down. I mean, geez, that's a nice thing to say for once, right? It feels like a breath of fresh air. Let's start the new year off right. You know, mortgage-backed securities are up. Notice the green arrows. Those means those are good things. These are good things. But more importantly, that all betting should make sure to include a non-ticklish tag on it. just to look out for those who might have pteronophobia, right? Like, you gotta look out for the little man right there.
Yes.
All right, everybody. So thanks for watching. That was what the mortgage is going on. I think we're in 5 minutes or less. We probably go over because the feathers. Like we had fun with that. Larry, thanks for jumping on. Even though I know you're not feeling well, go get some rest. And don't let the boys take over.
Yep.
So for everybody else, soon we are going to be moving exclusively to YouTube for hosting the live. So make sure you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Robert Bean Official. That's the name it is for now until maybe I decide to change the Scale Through the Fail. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Go to subscribe to that. You'll know what's going on. Larry, go rest. Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
Thanks, boss. See you later.
All right, guys. Now it is time to get into our main attraction. When we talk about attraction, this dude's got it going on. Mr. Graham Wise is going to be joining us today to talk about virtual real estate. Like, what the heck, virtual real estate? Is it a fad? I always, some people look at it and they're like, man, that's just Beanie Babies all over again. Well, is it? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about kind of the pros and cons. Let's have a look at it. Grant does some awesome things with his company, Whitley. He gets into AI. I mean, this dude is on top of it. People often relate real estate to the dinosaur age, right? Dinosaur practice. And Grant is the exact opposite. He is like, I'm taking it to the future, ads to the future, AI to the future. He's an amazing person, amazing coach, amazing speaker. And I just can't wait to have him on. So let's just bring Grant in. Grant, what is up, brother? Good morning.
How's it going, man? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you. Man, you had no idea what to expect even, huh? You're like, here we go.
That's all good.
How is your first taste of watching What the Mortgage is going on?
I learned nothing about mortgages and a lot about bird phobias. I think feather phobias. So that's awesome.
So, you know what's so funny? Here's the crazy funny thing. So we do very basic. Here's interest rates. Here's mortgage-backed securities.
Yep.
We used to spend a lot more time talking about it. And what we found out is the longer we talked about it, the less people understood.
Oh, of course.
So we're like, okay, what if instead we turn around, we tell them exactly what they need to know, up or down, okay? The key takeaways. And then we create what I call, I'm psychology right here, create something memorable that's odd and unique, so that everything around it gets associated with it. So I created What the Funny Fact, because I actually had people go like, I saw a squirrel and then I remembered what you said for What the Funny Fact. And then I remembered the interest rates. And so that's actually why we do it. People think like, oh man, they just do it just to throw something random there. Yeah, I like to make people laugh, but it actually is very strategically placed.
No, it's
there
good
to try and help people remember. So, Grant, we're going to be talking, obviously, as you know, virtual real estate. I got to bring my buddy on, though. Chris, the icon bearded agent. Now, the reason why we're bringing Chris on today is he said, Robert, I shouldn't be on today. He's like, virtual real estate? Man, I can't even spell virtual. Like, he is a lumberjack. He stays out in the field. Like, I had to rope him in to get inside in front of a camera.
See, I can spell it. The problem is I can't smell it because it doesn't exist because it's not real.
And this is exactly why we brought this sassiness right here.
To be the pessimist and tear this whole show down.
That's well, welcome to Chris Rains, who is here to, honestly, I think he's going to have a view that most real estate agents have. And that's why I'm really excited and then I can always mute him and kick him off the show if needed. So it's like, it's great. This is a great opportunity. So Grant, real estate agents don't touch virtual real estate until you watch this with us right now. So before we get started, we're gonna play a little game, which is, what do you think was the price of the most expensive piece of virtual land ever sold? For anybody watching, leave your comment and let us know. Yeah, I know you're gonna cheat and go at Google.
I have a guess without Googling. I have at least have a guess, like where it was. Pretty certain that I might have heard this somewhere.
Where it was?
Yeah, like the piece of land. Doesn't it have something to do with like Snoop Dogg? I feel like it was like Snoop, like
I know what you're talking about. That's from Justin over at the
like
title
the
company.
house, like right next to Snoop Dogg's land or something like that.
Yeah, it was like $750K or something next to
something like that.
Snoop.
Yeah.
All right, so Grant, I'm gonna ask you, what's your guess? You might even know, but what's your guess? Most expensive piece of land?
I think it was just north of 3 million, if I'm remembering correctly. If I'm not mistaken, it was sold through a PE firm in Canada, or the other one I'm thinking of was sold through Sotheby's, but I think it was just north of 3 million.
Ooh, I like this. I like this. And remember, a key word for everybody watching is virtual land. So that means not a real piece of land tied to a contract, which we're not going to get into right away, but a virtual piece of land, which means that it has no material physical location, unless you count being on the blockchain, which then those are servers, and those servers are ran through a million, but that's another conversation. Chris, what's your guess?
Oh, heck, man. I don't know. If he's saying 3 million, I'm going to shoot higher and hope that he's wrong and say 5 million.
The Price is Right strategy. You pick the person who's right, you think is most likely to be right, and then you just go a little bit above or a little bit below. I like it. All right, so Grant says 3 million. Chris says, you said 5?
I'll say 5.
All right. So now we're gonna come back to that. But first, Grant, I gotta ask you a couple of questions. And now I've warned you, my questions are very ridiculous. You can answer them seriously. You can answer them with satire as well, or all the sass you want. But these questions were kind of, I feel like if Chris asked them, this is how he would ask them. So where exactly is virtual land located? Like in a parallel universe?
So VR, right, is a 3D reality. So it's not necessarily anything that physically exists. It's something that is ledgered through blockchain, like you were talking about. But these virtual pieces of land are essentially sold in a virtual reality, where you can have a 2D experience to look at them, or you can have a 3D experience to go in and actually interact and engage and do whatever it is that you may be there to do. So there are a lot of different metaverses, as you may be very well aware of, and then there's some people that are working to centralize some big metaverses, and we'll see who can win that game. But that's where people go to experience virtual land.
Yeah. All right. So the answer is, it's not in a parallel universe unless you count your brain and the visuals that your brain is receiving.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, Grant, I'm going to ask you your personal opinion, okay? And we're going to keep it real quick. Like, do you own any virtual real estate?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I haven't bit the bullet yet, purely because I haven't done my research. I'm a ton into crypto. I believe a lot in what crypto can do on the utility side. I'm not the fanboy, the moon boy type of stuff. That's not my thing. I don't care about that. I think we share in common. We're very utility based people. Like, is there a use for it? If there's a use for it and a need for it, I'm in, pretty much. So
I have a question.
Yes, let's hear it.
All right. So we're saying virtual real estate, and then we're saying virtual land. So in reality, are we talking about virtual land, or are we talking about virtual real estate? Because I think that's going to be two different things. So I just want to expound on that.
It's like an umbrella. It's like saying commercial real estate. Well, it still falls under real estate. Now, you can get into specifics where you take a real piece of real estate in the real world and attach it to a contract of ownership, an NFT. But for this conversation, we're talking purely about digital. Is that a better way of saying it? Digital land, digital real estate.
I get that. I'm just wondering, like, if we're talking strictly land, because, you know, at the end of the day, you can say that I don't own virtual real estate, but I kind of look at some of my social media channels and platforms as a bit of virtual real estate.
But
really.
you don't own them. That's a big difference, right, Grant? I mean, chime in, right?
I think if you're like in the context of the metaverse and what a lot of people are talking about when they talk about virtual real estate or virtual land, they're talking contextually about, do you own a piece of property in Decentraland or Sandbox or Uptrend or CryptoVoxels or whatever it is that might look like. And these are NFTs that you, Chris, actually would own,
Right.
assuming that metaverse does exist. I get totally the premise behind what you're talking about. How
All
you
right,
have
so let's say
your
let's compare
virtual
it to
real
like a
estate.
YouTube channel. Then, okay, does somebody own a YouTube channel then, or do they technically not own it because YouTube as a company owns the channel? So then they just add them on a
Facebook, and
YouTube
Twitter. I think YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all these companies have proven that they can take that and eliminate it like that. So no,
So we don't. So you don't own it. So all the
certainly
people
don't
that
own
say
that.
they own channels, they actually don't own them, right? All right. So I mean that's a big spiral downhill. I mean, you take any agent then and at any brokerage, and you can say you have some ownership, but do you really own it? Probably not. All right.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, it just spirals into a whole bunch of other conversations. That's the way my brain's working.
So let's get into some more questions then. Do I need to pack a lunch for my virtual open house, or can I just teleport there in the blink of an eye? Grant's like, what am I answering right now?
What a fascinating way to ask this question.
I'm hopping on my freaking flaming unicorn and grabbing my lunch on the way there. So whatever you guys want to do.
Grant, do you know Jim Edwards over at Script Funnels?
Yeah.
So the unicorn, the moment he said unicorn, yes. I was thinking Jim Edwards. Jim Edwards would be flying into this unicorn.
Like big old axe or something. That would be me.
That's really funny.
Letting everybody know I'm hungry.
Virtual open houses, metaverse aside, have given especially really high-end people the opportunity to experience what real property's like before they go there. And as I've gotten into this space really deep and have worked with really large real estate companies in the US, worked with some of the biggest real estate companies in Qatar, like all over the world. These companies are fascinated by the ability to create something in a 3D world that gives you an opportunity to experience the real world. Because if we could step into my 3D real estate office in Decentraland and we could look at real property, which is something that we've been doing for years now, metaverse aside, it creates such an incredible opportunity for these. It just creates an opportunity to create an experience. Like, if I can send you, if you're going to buy a $5 million property and I send you an Oculus as a gift, and then we go shopping 3, 4, 5 homes, see what you like, and then we actually go set an appointment to go look at one. Like, those things are happening, and it allows you to create a very cool experience for people that maybe are coming over from foreign countries. It doesn't have to be the country thing. Like, I live in Arkansas, and maybe somebody in California, I want to look at property, but I don't want to drive there or fly there just yet. So,
or even just like disabilities, things like that, to where like
disabilities is huge. There's a lot of companies in our space that are doing really cool things to develop technology that's built for people that are hearing impaired or people that are blind. There's a ton of utility to that. Metaverse aside, what companies are trying to do in the metaverse, there's a lot of really cool applications of VR just in the real world real estate space.
I honestly I love asking these questions, but there's pretty much nothing I bring up that I'm not super passionate about, because otherwise why would I have it on the show? I partnered with a real estate brokerage that they had a storehouse of Oculuses that this client would put down a deposit just to make sure they didn't break and ruin it. And then as long as it returned them safely, they get their deposit back. But people actually walked through virtual real estate. Now, none of the agents used it except I think me, because I actually saw this and I was like, first of all, I won't have to show the house in person. I won't have to go there to the same extent. I can save time, but I also knew that the deeper they got into it, the more connected they would be. So my conversion rate went higher. Their decision-making went higher. So I actually think, jokes aside, like you said too, right? Jokes aside, virtual open houses, I mean, you're talking about the ability to where if we streamline this process, a brokerage could host a virtual open house for every single listing their entire brokerage has. It could be on demand. Or agents could have a new type of floor time. And the floor time is they work the leads that are coming in, viewing the virtual open houses. Hey, what about this room? Well, hey, I'm the agent on the floor right now. Let me tell you about this house.
Yeah, 100%.
Plus, it's safety. I mean, we do live
during
in an
during COVID, it became extremely popular. 3D tours,
dude, super
3D
popular.
3D tours lit up out of force, and it really propelled the technology forward.
I agree.
But the
And
type
the
of experience you
acceptance.
can create doing it, yeah, 100%.
All right, next question. Do I need to get a real estate license for the metaverse, or can I just fly by the seat of my virtual pants?
This is actually something that I'm very passionate about. I've always worked in the real estate space, and I've always had a very agent-first approach, innovating anything. I care deeply about the realtor. I think that this industry produces some of the most phenomenal humans. And as I've started developing into the metaverse with the different platforms that we work to create, one of the first things that came to mind is really the understanding that business is going to drive the development in the metaverse, business growth. And you've already seen companies like Nike and Apple and Starbucks,
All of
and
them,
these major brands start to
Samsung,
dump a
yeah.
fortune. Yeah. And my mind went immediately to, let's create a sell and earn program where we can actually teach a real estate agent how to get a metaverse license and then teach them how to sell virtual property. Because if you're sitting on your couch as an agent and you sell 2 or 3 poor pieces of virtual land today and you make a few $100, a couple $1,000, I think it's an incredible opportunity. I think it's what's going to drive the development of that forward. I don't think that real estate specifically is, but development inside of the metaverse is what's going to drive it, and that is powered by business. And so if you can
make money from it, people will show up.
If we can create an industry, create an economy inside of a virtual reality, and help the people I'm passionate about get paid, I'm all in. And so we absolutely went to work really quick at the beginning of the middle of last year.
I think that's when you and I first connected, actually, is
Yeah.
that property in Florida.
Yes. We helped drive a lot of the advertising for that, but
Yeah.
100%. So I'm really passionate about actually creating this as a sub industry inside of the metaverse, is helping real estate agents get licensed. And I think what it also does is it gives an agent an opportunity to learn about the future of real estate in the real world, because blockchain is not going to go away.
Now, do you think this licensing for the virtual world, do you think it should just be an add-on or a course you can take, or do you think a separate license? Because it is drastically different, right?
Yeah, no, I'm actually a fan of creating a separate license.
Do you think it should be government regulated or metaverse regulated? I
think where I'm at is I actually created the Metaverse Real Estate Association, and so went towards creating an association that can drive and regulate that. The Web3 space is all about decentralization until everything crashes, and then it's like the government needs to step in, which is funny.
Yeah,
but
like literally, it's so, like confusing. Like, what do you want? You can't have both.
Yeah, you can't do both. And so I don't know. I think that if you regulate yourself enough, and you put those types of things in place, you can really keep a government from stepping in to want to try to regulate some of those things. And that was my intent, is let's create something that gives us the ability to form diplomatic relationships with these different countries. And I think there's a really cool opportunity there to kind of self-regulate. And that's why DAOs exist, right? Is to be able to
that's something that's really hard to do in the real world, because
100%.
because the real world is I have to still trust you.
Yeah.
You show me the books rather than the books being exposed to everyone. I can go, Grant, show me the transaction. Right. And we saw with all the scams that came up over the last year, we saw the new wave of investors in crypto expecting a higher standard of transparency. Now, it never used to be that they would do anything and say, hey, guys, here's the transaction ID. You can see it for yourself. That didn't exist. And then after all this crap happened, now every day it's a standard of the projects that exist. Hey, guys, we moved 20K over here. Here's the transaction ID. I think that's amazing. Yep. I think that level of transparency makes me say, man, we really can get away from the government. We just needed the right model, the right system, the right process. And then you can create, because it's a DAO, for those who don't understand a DAO, you'll have an invested interest. You'll be able to vote on things based off of the investment. Like, you can set up DAOs in different ways. So we're not going to get too detailed into DAOs. But my point is, we could make laws. Grant, you and I could have a DAO, and we could agree, if you abuse this language in our agreement, here's the consequence, and it's transparent. Everybody is the judge and the jury.
Yeah, it's a very democratic process. Like, it's a very democratic way to self-regulate, and it's the community regulating what is happening, which, you know, there's a whole subtopic on community, but it's the community regulating what is and is not going to happen. And as long as you are not coming in and just maliciously harming people, like so many 98% of crypto projects did in the last 12 months, you're not going to find yourself sitting at the regulatory table, in a sense that people are saying, okay, now here's what you're going to like. It creates a more collaborative opportunity, and that's
Agreed.
what I'm a huge fan of, is how can we all collaborate globally, which is what I think that the metaverse gives you an opportunity to do in a really interesting way, to create a better society, whether it's in the real world or it's in the virtual world.
So, Chris, and for every real estate agent watching right now, I have a question for you guys. All right, because obviously it's pretty clear where Grant and I stand on this, but I'm going to ask you guys, if you heard that you could make money in selling virtual land or something within virtual real estate, okay, but you had to go get a license for it. And let's say it was the equivalent amount of money you could make. So it's not like, oh, I can go make pennies and stuff to do. Let's say it's the equivalent amount of money you could make in your current real estate, with your current real estate license, and then a virtual real estate license. Would you go and get licensed?
That's tough for me. So it's something that I don't 100% understand or know that I really want to understand. That's probably the other thing, you know. It's not it's not tried and true.
Am I correct in understanding that you're, and this is most people, you have to remember 6% of the world was adopted to crypto, 1% or less adopted to the metaverse. Most people don't get this. Like, most people, and I didn't at first either.
I didn't either.
So the thought is like, why on earth would I go pay for nothing? Like, why? That doesn't even make logical sense, right? And I think what people need to understand is that the metaverse acts very similar to the real world when it comes to real estate. It's location, 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 right? In the real world, your proximity to the location and the utility of that location. So if I own a piece of land in the desert, it's worth nothing. If I own a piece of land and there's a Starbucks on it, it's worth a lot. All right, that's the way to illustrate this. That same principle really translates 100% into the metaverse. And you can look at different case studies of this. Last year, the one that's probably the easiest to call out is Fashion Week. So in Decentraland, they held Fashion Week, which is it's a district, what they call a district inside of this metaverse. And what makes it valuable, it's not foot traffic like we would think about in the real world. It's foot traffic actually like we would think socially. Because if I can get concentrated attention on a part of the metaverse, I can then sell the impressions. And this is exactly what happened. So companies last year in whenever Fashion Week was, I can't remember if it was like March, April, May, I can't remember. I think it was in the summer. Companies were paying $250,000 to sponsor Fashion Week. And they had over 1 billion global impressions to the week. And so companies, this is an advertising game. This is a money game. This is the exact same thing that Facebook does, right? They charge per impression. Now, what they were charging per impression in the metaverse was extreme compared to Facebook, but these brands are investing millions of dollars to get attention. That's the economy that we live in, especially if we have products and services to sell. And it's really interesting as they kind of like dug into some of the data, getting to see all of that's really cool. Like Rue 21 as an example. Their average store visit time to their virtual experience inside of the Fashion Week was 22 minutes. People were sitting inside of their store shopping for clothes. And how that then translates to sales in the real world is just fascinating. And so
let me get this straight. They're looking at clothes in the metaverse that they can't actually buy. So then they would need to go to a real store to go actually buy them or order it online.
There's so many different ways that you can apply that, Chris. But what some people are doing is they're actually selling clothes in a metaverse for your metaverse characters. And what some companies were doing is they were actually creating a shopping experience where you could buy clothes in the real world. It just got shipped to your house. So there's some interesting nuances in how people are crafting these experiences.
Yeah, it depends where their value lies. Is it I want to dress up me, or I want to dress up my character? It's funny because I covered this last year, and I got a lot of people who just didn't get it either. They were like, "There's no way that I would go and spend my hard-earned real world money on a digital item I can't hold." And I said, "Really? So you've never watched a movie before? You've never listened to music before. You've never subscribed to Netflix." But I'll take it a step further. Last year, Target pulled in $24 billion. I think, Chris, you know Target. It's an established company, been around for a while. Retail store, real items. Online digital video game purchases, meaning only for the game, only useful in the character, and nothing else in the real world, just those in-game purchases, meaning not the games themselves, brought in $54 billion. They doubled what Target could do, but Target's the real world thing. How does that make sense? And what it is that there's this value of this persona that they're creating, right? This person that they create, this character, it's a version that they can control. It's a version that they can say, I want to look, feel, see, do things that in the real world I haven't been able to do. And we're going to get to experience without the risk.
Yeah, right now, Chris, I guess what I'm saying is right now, even if you put that aside, it's an attention economy. It's no different than Facebook or Instagram. It's just a different way to experience each other socially, which is why Homeboy paid $550,000 to be Snoop Dogg's virtual neighbor, because the guy got blown up globally.
He really did.
Written about
We're talking
everywhere.
about him now still, and that was what, a year ago?
Forbes, Business Week, like every entity was talking about this man. So $550,000 probably made him a fortune because of the brand impressions that he got. Right now, it's an attention economy. And so we want to think about it just a little bit differently. It's not, why would I pay for something that doesn't exist? Oh, I get it. I'm paying for a piece of virtual land. I'm going to develop it into something to create an experience, and then I'm going to get as many people to come be a part of this as possible. Like I'm watching these conversations. Katy Perry, as an example, I happen to know, is wanting to create an experience in the metaverse. How many impressions is somebody like Katy Perry going to bring to a virtual concert? This is what these big companies are paying attention to, saying, okay, let's spend $2 million to develop the virtual experience. Katy's going to put on a virtual concert, and then she's going to get 1 billion people to show up. Okay, cool. You reverse engineer some of the impression math. Advertising, which is what's going to drive a lot of this, is going through the roof in these places, because all of these companies need attention. It's why we spend money from an advertising standpoint anywhere. So
advertising, social media, billboards, anything.
It's not the virtual land that doesn't exist. It's the experience that does, that people are creating in these 3D worlds, and that's what's valuable. That's what people are really paying for.
That's why people have Netflix subscriptions. Is because they want to experience. Go ahead, Chris.
So the way I understand it is you can create multiple virtual worlds. Like there could be like 1 billion Nashvilles, because there could be a billion virtual worlds. And then how do you know which world is actually going to be worthwhile to actually buy said land 100%. In there?
And this is why
this is just like cryptocurrency. I mean, it's the same thing. You're taking a gamble.
This is exactly why we started developing into the metaverse. Because I started looking at this a couple of years ago. I'm like, wait a second, there's not like a Zillow in the metaverse. Like, how do we know if any of this stuff's actually worth $50,000? Because it's really probably not. And so I became really passionate about building a platform, and this is what Whitley.io does. Is it acts like the Zillow or the MLS of the metaverse. It aggregates all of the property data, the virtual land data. And we have a partnership with a company called Land Vault that aggregates impression data. So we're able to, as we're developing and when the platform goes live, we're able to actually give people those data, those valuation tools, so that people could look at a piece of virtual land and say, yeah, really, this isn't worth anything and I probably shouldn't. Or you know what, it's not worth anything now, but I have a brand and I have 10 million followers, so I'm going to buy this piece of plot over here, this piece of land over here in this virtual nothingness, and I'm going to develop it. I'm going to create a concert venue. I'm going to build a replica of my house, which is what Snoop Dogg did. And I'm going to use my brand to bring my attention and influence here, and I'm going to make it valuable, and I'm going to get companies to pay me $250,000 because I'm going to have so many people paying attention to what I do. And so to answer your question, like today, actually, there really isn't anything that exists. And that's why we stepped into, it's why I became really passionate about stepping into this space and building something and creating something so that people actually have that information. And we don't end up going through what a lot of people are going through right now, like cryptocurrencies and stuff. And a lot of people are getting in trouble with crypto because they're buying on hype. They're not buying on utility.
Yeah, they're making poor investment choices, and then they're blaming everybody else but themselves. So
Yeah.
Have either of you guys ever heard of the city, California City?
Yes.
Okay, you probably have if either of you know me. Here's the thing, right? California City, in all the years it's been around, has like 30,000 people in it. When it was originally founded, it was one of the largest land cities in California, and it was meant to replace LA. So it's no different in the virtual land, right? You have to create value. You can have a real world asset, but if nobody values it, it's still a bad investment. It's still not going to get your return. But if you can generate value from it, a YouTube channel, you're not giving away real products. You're giving them a digital experience of your brand. And they either find Mr. Beast literally just gives money away and does wacky challenges. And he is globally, as an individual, he is the #1 individual on YouTube. He's ranked #3 overall. And then the two above him are massive brands. I think one of them is Coco Melon, massive children's brands and things like that. So it's like, there's so many, when the US started to be, cities started to pop up, there's a lot of cities that died because there was no attraction. There was no value. Nobody wanted to live there. High ambition. So, all right, let's go back. Speaking of land, right? So let's go back to I'm going to skip a couple questions. So one last time, everybody in the comments, drop your comments real quick on what you think the price of the most expensive piece of virtual land ever sold was. Chris said 5 million. Grant said 3 million. And we'll kind of give guys like 10 seconds because we got some fun stuff going on here. I'm trying to say, oh yeah, we're gonna do that. That's gonna be fun too. All right, you know what? We're just go on with it because we got more stuff to cover. So I need to get my sound bites so I can be like drum roll or whatever. I just don't have those hooked up yet. One day I'll have time. 4.3 million. 4.3 million. Man, what a price tag on a virtual piece of land. Now, to be clear, everybody, there were parcels of packages of land that were sold for more. This was a single piece of land. So this is why someone's going to Google and be like, well, that was #2 on the list or something. Listen, the #1s on the list are almost all of them were like, it was 19 pieces of it or something like that. And I wanted to have how much would someone pay for a singular piece of land? And so we're not going to read this whole thing, but essentially the premise is Atari. You guys have heard of Atari. Huge brand, still around. They owned a piece of land. They sold it to a company called Republic Realms, who believed that they could turn this into something. And this is a company that really believes in it because they own land across 19 virtual worlds, 25,000 plots of land. So clearly these are people who believe in the development of this world and how they can do it. But I just wanted you guys to see the value there. Now, speaking of value, I think we're going to get into some real hard facts that are really important to cover, okay? Because at the end of the day, our opinions don't matter. The numbers do. The numbers tell us. The market decides. So let's talk about the fact that we are in one of the worst, if not the worst, crypto market we've been in. I mean, it's just been horrible. I mean, there are things that are down 99%. I mean, literally, or just completely down and out. And yet, in November, I didn't have the date up on here. The Sandbox, which is the second largest virtual world right now, sold a bunch of its land. And quite honestly, a lot of like reporters that covered it were like, why would you sell land during this time? Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody believes in it. And they sold all of it. Everything they had for sale, they sold out and generated $1.6 million in profit, which is, or not profit, in revenue. I think that's pretty astounding because, and Grant is someone, you know, you've sold a lot of products over the years. You know that if you can sell a product in a horrible market, it is a great product. Would you agree?
What is? I'm sorry.
I know, I saw your eyes. I was like, hold on, he's saying something. So what I said is, if you can sell a product in a down market, because you've sold a lot of products, if you can sell it in a down market, it's a good product.
Yeah, 100%.
If all the odds are against you and every reason says nobody should be buying your product in this market, it's crazy, and people buy it anyway.
Yeah, and look at who is buying it, right? It's brands, it's games, like
The
these
guys who
things
have
are
all the money and make all the money.
Yeah, the demand for this isn't really going away. Impression data in all metaverses is down, but the companies that are creating experiences, which is what these brands do, are going to continue to crush it, and that's what's going to drive the metaverse economy forward. So 1,000% I agree with you.
You guys ready?
It is, yeah.
We're about to play a game. I made this up last night. It's called Cap That. And we're going to be using Decentraland. The reason why I use Decentraland is the fact that it is considered a larger, the two main ones as far as size, revenue, growth, whatever, is Decentraland and the Sandbox. I use Decentraland. You guys can do your own research. I use Decentraland. It's my basis today. So let's talk about how you play the game. All right, so you're going to guess whether this company has a higher or lower market cap than Decentraland does. But first, you do need to know what a market cap is, right? So market cap is a metric that makes it easier to understand a company's financial scope. That's not really helpful. It allows investors to size up a company based on how valuable the public perceives it to be. And at the end of the day, that's every company in the world. Either the public buys your product or they don't. They either value it or they don't. The higher the value, the bigger the company. Basically, the higher the market cap, the bigger perception of value that the company has. We're not talking about net profit and revenue and things like that because there's too many different fields and metrics. But market cap is public perception. You can have a really niche company that has a giant market cap still. They can serve a very niche audience that the vast public doesn't even know about or care about, but the public of investors sees the value and can value them extremely high. So the reason why we're playing this game is to see where you believe the public has perceived, public investors, the ones who have the money and will spend the money, that are buying these plots of land or not, how they value it compared to established real world brands. All right, you guys ready to play?
Yep.
Grant's ready. Chris is like, uh-oh. All right, let me tell you first, because the way we're going to play it is that once I bring up a company, I'm going to give you a few bullet points on them to kind of give you an advantage so you kind of can make a more educated guess. So first, I'm going to tell you what Decentraland is. Decentraland is a 3D virtual world browser-based platform. Users may buy virtual plots of land in the platform as NFTs. Basically, they own it. There's a digital record, a digital contract that says they own this piece of land, and they're the only one that own that piece of land in the world, and they can prove it, kind of like your house deed or your title. You use their internal cryptocurrency. And it was open to the public in February 2020 and is overseen by the nonprofit Decentraland Foundation. All right, here we go. First one. Bed Bath & Beyond. 900 stores worldwide. Includes World Market. A lot of you guys know that company, World Market. That is included in this brand. And in 2021 had $9 billion generated in revenue. Plus, you've always gotten Bed Bath & Beyond coupons in the mail. So you pretty much, they're there. Grant, let's start with you. Higher or lower market cap?
I wouldn't have any idea what their market cap is. I would say it's higher.
Decentraland is higher or Bed & Bath is higher? I should have made that more clear.
Bed Bath & Beyond's higher.
Higher. Okay, Chris?
That's going to be my guess as well.
Higher. Okay. And the answer is lower. Bed Bath & Beyond has a lower market cap than Decentraland.
What is Decentraland's market cap?
Oh, you're going to see. I can't tell you so soon. The game's still going.
Got it.
I see your analytical thoughts like, all right, I'm going to build some sort of app that's going to tell me like,
No, I know I know around where their market cap is, but I just didn't know if we were aligned on what their market cap was. Go ahead. Yes. Just keep going.
Yeah, it's been a lot of time on this one. It's why I ended up choosing Decentraland over Sandbox too, because of some of the data that supported Decentraland a little bit stronger. All right, next one. Apple expanded by more than 15,000%. That's an insane number, by the way. 15,000%. Like what? Since 2001, hundreds of millions of iPhones sold. Holds 36.5% of the wearables market, meaning you wear it, they own it. Pretty much 36% of it. Continues to try and make it so you can't use any other products with their products except expensive Apple products. Chris, higher or lower?
Decentraland.
Is Apple higher or lower in market cap than Decentraland?
I'm going to say Apple's higher.
Grant?
Apple is higher.
Feel like that one was an easy one because absolutely Apple is the highest valued company in the world, even over Amazon. Their market cap is 2.6 trillion or something. It's an absurd number. It's like monopoly money level of, and then their cash reserves. Don't get me started on that. All right, next one. Netgear, 1,000+ employees, products sold in over 2,400 retail locations around the world. Average employee makes over 130K a year, and you've 100% have a chance you'd had and probably still have a Netgear router or modem somewhere in your house. Grant, higher or lower market cap than Decentraland?
That's a tough one. Higher.
Higher. Chris?
Lower.
Chris says lower, and the answer is lower. This is not crazy, man. Man, when I was making this, like the highs and lows, I was like, what is going on right now? It took a lot of time because I had to fact check a lot of numbers to make sure that they were correct, to make sure that they were actually analysis reports and not someone's bias wrote a blog on it and said, this is how much they should be valued for, right? Or to make sure that the numbers were as recent as possible, right? Because it's super easy to go back to peak times and be like, oh yeah, this is how much the company's worth. And I'm like, listen, how much is it worth now though in the most recent report? All right, next one. Kering, that's Gucci. You know what's so funny is I wrote this one up and I wrote it as Keurig, the coffee, and then I realized it was the wrong company, and then I had to rewrite this one because I thought Kering and Keurig, you know what I'm talking about, the coffee maker ones with the single pods. Yeah. So I had wrote that whole thing out, and then I was like, this is the wrong company. So Kering is Gucci, Bottega Veneta, Puma, Volcom, like massive names, 42,000+ employees, and has bags that cost more than your car. So Chris, higher or lower market cap than Decentraland?
Lower.
Lower. Okay. Higher. All right, we got a couple more. That are going to blow your mind, and then we will reveal the answer. And it's going to be pretty astounding overall where Decentraland is viewed by the public valuation. All right, next one. Vimeo. It depends how you say it. I don't honestly know the correct way to say it. I think they're a French company, so like Vimeo. That sounds right. Vimeo. I don't know. 175 million registered members, users in 150 countries. It's older than YouTube. And you've used it at least 100 times, but you can't ever remember why. You have. You've opened up a link to it, like something. It's been hosted. You've watched a video hosted by Vimeo. So, Chris, higher or lower market cap?
Lower.
What'd you say, Grant?
Lower.
Ding, ding, ding. I need like bells and stuff. One day I'm going to have my soundboard. One day. It's a lot of work to get that stuff though. All right, we got two more and then the answers will be revealed. Redfin. I got it. You knew I had to throw something real estate into here. How could I not? So I took Redfin, and the reason why I took Redfin is they actually talk about tech a lot. They've actually talked about virtual reality and things like that. Zillow really hasn't shared kind of where they stand on that. So I wanted to take a notable, successful, and when I say successful, they've made money, they've grown, blah, 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 blah. And and also had talked about virtual real estate and things like that before. So Redfin, 51 million monthly average users on its apps and websites, nearly 2 billion in revenue in 2021, 76,000 plus real estate transactions done in 2021. And the name is actually an anagram and empty vessel. If you shuffle the letters, you can spell friend and finder. And that is where Redfin comes from. Friend and finder. Grant, higher or lower market cap than Decentraland?
That's a tough one. I can't
They're
remember
all
how they've
tough,
been.
man.
I can't remember how they've been impacted by like the last 12 to 18 months, because they were a part of the iBuyer crew too, weren't they?
They closed the iBuyer program, 13% layoff.
Yeah. Stuff. I'd say lower.
You say lower. Chris, what do you say?
I'm gonna say lower.
Boom! You guys are on hot streak right now. Woo! All right, last one. One of my personal favorites. Costco. What? 820 plus stores, 114 million members, which, guys, in the subscription world, that is honestly absolutely an absurd amount of subscriptions. It really is. Cheaper gas and samples on the weekends. Let's go. Chris, higher or lower market cap than Decentraland?
I'm just gonna say that they have samples during the week sometimes too. I'm just throwing that out there.
They do?
If you're ever hungry. Yeah, sometimes.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's samples during the week sometimes too. Anyways, that's an important topic.
That is an
Another
important
conversation. Lower.
You say lower. Grant, what do you say?
Higher.
Boom. Grant is right. It is higher. Okay.
Was
First of all,
Walmart,
who was
was Walmart
shocked?
included with those numbers?
What?
Wait, no, that's Sam's Club. So Costco's on its own there.
Yeah, two separate companies.
Yeah.
Costco's better. Fight me, Sam's Club.
I agree.
Fight me. All right. So first of all, who was shocked just by the lower and hires? Like Grant, like what as you were seeing this, these companies that have been around for a long time have huge market presence, and then it was like they're lower. Like what kind of went through your head where you're like, I didn't know where to value it, or was there like, I really am surprised?
I think the only one that actually surprised me was Bed Bath & Beyond, but I also like them, and there's like a suite of other retail giants like them that basically crashed and were purchased by somebody else in the last 2 years. So,
Chris,
makes
what
sense.
about you? Were you shocked?
A little bit, yeah.
I feel like this is extra relevant, and part of why I made this game is that we made it hopefully fun with the guessing, but also to show the perceived value of it, because here's where it stands. So we've got all these market caps. Decentraland's most recent financial report valued it at 760 million in market cap. The Sandbox was the second highest, and it was actually 640 million, which is really shocking because it was not long ago. It was 2-3 years ago, and I think Decentraland was sitting right around like 100 million. So even with the crash, and again, that's why I brought up that news article about Sandbox. They still sold out their plots that they sold, and they sold them back in November, which was a horrible time to be doing anything in crypto. So it was really interesting to see. And the reason why I wanted to put this there is to show people like there is a perception of value here. It just may not be the value you're thinking about. You may be thinking, I value Costco because I can walk into Costco and I can buy a physical item at hopefully a discounted price. But Kevin O'Leary, right, Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank, what does he value it as? Eyeballs. Costco commands the wine space. They have more wine, if you will, wine impressions than anybody else in the wine space, in the wine industry. Costco holds that. So if you want your target audience in front of the right people, you've got to align your brand with Costco. You've got to partner them up. And so I think it's very similar to what Grant was saying earlier, which is if there is a perceived level of value, companies will pay to get the impressions, to get in front of their target audience. If you can show that Katy Perry doing a concert generates this much impressions, and those impressions lead to more CD sales, merch sales, other items you have to sell, well, how is that not valuable? Now, Chris, I got to ask you again, because you're kind of like the odd man out because Grant and I already came in here with a bias of believing it. Does this kind of change your mind a little bit about the perceived value of the virtual world? And this is without there being a clear dominant winner. There is no established, right? It's not like there's only this one. There's like hundreds out there. So this is before we even have a truly established one, right? Its main competitor is not far behind it. The sandbox could do one or two things that might catalyst it above Decentraland, right? So what do you think now, Chris, that you've seen these numbers?
I still think that I'm going to stick to my tried and true methods, that I really don't have that yearning to learn all of this stuff to make myself super knowledgeable in the space. I don't know.
It's all right.
It really doesn't interest me that much.
It's okay. You don't have to.
Is it costing me money? Maybe not. My luck, I'd get in here and lose a bunch of money. So
it's not costing you anything right now. I think, again, we go back to what's really something I think important for agents to consider is what the next 5 to 10 years could look like with functions of metaverse, virtual land, those things, which is blockchain technology. Because what's happening with blockchain and how it translates to real estate is actually really, 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 really fascinating with the types of ledgers that are created on our residents and the speed that somebody can buy and sell properties and the speed of accessibility to documentation. There's a lot of really amazing things that I think any agent should educate themselves on, even if it's just to start a conversation. When we did the advertising for the first real estate property that sold as an NFT in the United States, we generated 900 leads for the property.
That's
in a week.
Insane.
None of those leads bought that house, but we still had 900 leads. We could sell a real house to the normal traditional way, right? So it was just, we were able to use the bait of selling the house as the NFT to generate 900 opportunities at a 1% conversion rate. That's 9 homes sold traditionally, using something that was really relevant at the time, which was, homes selling.
So I've got a question about that. So with it being virtual, there's selling local real estate. You need to have people that want to live locally. Selling virtual real estate doesn't matter where they are. So while you generated 900 leads, how many of those were actually in your target area?
No. We sold a real home as an NFT. The company did that. I just helped come in and generate some of the ad space for it, but they sold a real property in Tampa, Florida, as an NFT. And so the people
they got both. They got the real property and the NFT. Or yes. I'm just trying to make sure I understand, because it's up here.
They converted the records on the home to an NFT. So somebody bought the NFT, and as soon as the purchase happened, they took immediate possession of the property. So they auctioned the house. Technically, what they did at the time, they have a little bit of a different process now, is they auctioned the home as an NFT, which is how a lot of that's traditionally sold. And whenever the auction was complete, within 24 hours, they sold the property for $650K. They sold it in crypto. But immediately the property changed hands of ownership based on the way that they sold it. And so it was a new way to sell a property, and it was a new way to transfer ownership. It was a new way to track everything. It was a new way to record everything. Like, there was a lot of really interesting things about that. So is this like sweeping the real estate economy? No. Is it generating?
I've got a question there. So there's a lot of people that have, let's be real, some metaverse money. Okay, so whatever you call it, whatever crypto they have, and sometimes it can be a little hard to cash it out. Did that person sell their house for more money because of auctioning it off through crypto than they would have with a traditional method? So it was worth 650,000 USD at the time, right? Did they make more by auctioning it off to crypto than they would have with a traditional sale for cash?
I don't know all of the details. This was during COVID.
Yeah.
I actually covered this, point. Chris. They
learned a lesson, though, because they sold it in I can't remember the currency that they sold it in, but they immediately flipped. They sold it in ETH, and then the next house that they sold Ethereum, and the next house they sold it in a stable coin, because the value of Ethernet's day to day doing this they flipped to selling it in USDC. The next property they sold in USDC, which is a stable coin, which means the value of the money isn't doing this every day.
Right.
So there were a lot of lessons learned. This is the first in the United
First.
States that took place. There's a lot of stuff that's happening here. My point is, this is the future of record keeping. It's the future of how transactions can flow. It's not going to be relevant, like super relevant this year. Like it's not going to be super relevant next year. Like we're
Not a chance. Yeah.
3-4 years away from this being even a relevant conversation again. So it's not like I'm saying, Chris, you need to go study this right now. I'm saying that this is the future of how this industry is going to go because of the simplicity it brings to the industry. It's going to take time, but it's fascinating what somebody can learn in the metaverse that is then applied to their real world business.
So let me ask you, Chris, with the topic that we discussed today, we always have the question, is it news or noise?
I'll give it news.
News, really? Okay, I was expecting you to be a noise, to be honest. All right, Grant, what about you?
News.
It's noise right now.
Dang,
Like,
okay.
It really is. Like at the end of the day, you see the metaverse economy in 2021. I think it was like 250 million as we stepped into 22. They were forecasting $1 billion in volume last year on metaverse property sales. And so it was trajecting to be this big thing. Crypto winter happens, kills the impression count in the metaverse, kills the conversation. People are not talking about how I can go make bank in the metaverse. They're talking about selling their Rolexes because they were done with their money. And so it's a little bit of noise right now. There's cool stuff happening. It's just not mainstream like it was. And it's a little bit more noise. I think it's still an unbelievable opportunity. So you can learn. I mean, if news is learning, there's still some really cool stuff that you can learn and apply. It's a bit of noise, but keep paying attention. I think there's some really cool stuff that's going to happen with it.
So here's the kind of final thoughts, that I've always encouraged people because they come to me, Grant, the moment you say that you know anything about crypto, people are like, you're the expert. And you're like, I'm not the expert. I know a little bit more than you do. So they come to you with every question under the sun, having no idea, even if you're factual, if you even know what you're talking about. And what's crazy is that the first time that I did this and got into crypto, it was not by choice. And when I say by choice, I felt forced into it because I had a client during the boom of Ethereum, Bitcoin, like where it was just mooning. It just like up. I had a client come and tell me and say, listen, can I use my Ethereum to cover my down payment? I didn't know how to answer that question. I didn't know what Ethereum was. I really didn't. I didn't care about crypto at all. I wish I did the first time I heard about Bitcoin, which was like 10 years ago. That would have been amazing. Different conversation, right? But I just didn't care. Nobody made it relevant to me in my life. But the moment a client had a need from me that I didn't know how to provide, it became relevant. So then I started diving in and researching. Again, not to put money into it, just to be able to know how to answer the questions and point them in the right direction. Same as like, I don't give people tax advice. I know enough to know where to point them when they ask tax advice, right? So what I encourage agents to remember is that your job is not about you. Your job is about what your clients want from you, the service that they're expecting. People have, for the last 2-3 years, have been asking about buying and selling crypto. I believe it was like 13% of home purchases, people sold crypto to help cover closing costs and down payments. So while maybe they're not buying virtual land, they're using virtual money as a way to make profit, to be able to sell an asset to purchase another asset. You probably are going to want to be aware at a rudimentary level of what crypto is and who you can rely on to give you advice when your clients ask you for advice. So I'm not telling you to become a crypto or virtual land expert, but know enough so that your clients don't lose faith in you. Most of the time when I've acquired a client that had a previous agent, because by the way, most of your clients have all know an agent or have worked with an agent in the past. Most of the time it's because they either forgot that agent, so that agent didn't stay relevant with them, or they didn't trust them anymore. They didn't trust that this person was the best person for the job. And so if you're an agent and a client comes to you and says, hey, how do I use my Bitcoin to pay for the down payment of my home? And you go, Bitcoin? I don't even know what that is. That's lame. Or I don't believe in that. Or I know nothing. The client's going to be like, well, I still have the need. And if you can't help me with that need, I need to find someone that can. Right? It's no different than any other objection that you're going to get. Oh, can my mom and dad gift me the money I need for the down payment? That happens. Right? Oh, I got a bonus. Does that affect my monthly? Right? So I'm just encouraging you guys, stay aware, even if you don't believe in it. Stay aware because you might get some questions coming to you. And if you don't know how to properly answer them, people will lose trust in you. They will. That's a fact. And we're seeing that, at least on the investor side of things, there is a perceived value. Emphasize the word perceived value. That's all this crap is. Everything on the NASDAQ is all perceived value. Most of these companies don't even have net profit. They're all in tremendous debt that's just pushed off for the next 100 years. It's all perceived future value. All right, Grant, man, we went way over, but hopefully you had a blast on the show. Thanks for being here. Listen, I want you to share a little bit if you can, because you're doing some amazing things. So one of the posts I saw was like AI pictures, and things like that. Where can someone learn more about what you're working on with it? I love your post recently, AI pictures, copywriting, things like that. Where can they learn more?
I think about me and what it is that we do every day. It's just, hit us up over at witly.net, WITLY.net. We're an advertising and marketing company in the real estate space and have been for almost a decade. And that's where a lot of my passion is helping real estate agents make a lot of money doing what it is that they are really good at and helping them acquire more customers, convert more leads. There's a lot of spin-off topics there, but that would be the best way that somebody could get to know a little bit more about what we're doing in the real world to have an impact on the real estate industry.
Love it. Witly.net, WITLY.net. Guys, seriously, also go follow Grant on his social medias because he's doing, like he said, real world stuff that you can take and use right away. He's flying around doing coaching and speaking at events. He's coming up with new products, and then he's also talking about future products. Grant, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for staying late. I know you got to go. Really appreciate you, and I can't wait to have you on again, brother.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
See you
later.
Chris, thanks for being on, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having a blast with us talking about virtual land / real estate. Yeah.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having me.
See you, buddy.
See you next time.
And for everybody watching, what do you think about virtual real estate, virtual land? Like, what the heck is it? Is it even worth it? Is it a fad like Beanie Babies that is just going to phase out? Or is it like the internet where people had the skepticism and then it ended up taking over the world and now we can't live without it? What do you guys think about virtual real estate as the future a part of our economy, an essential part, something that people are in our regular conversations, part of their budgeting and planning and things like that? Let us know in the comments. And if you have more questions about virtual real estate and land, also leave those in the comments. We'll try to get you some solid answers. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. We had lots of comments and stuff like that today. You guys are amazing. And then if you're watching this, make sure to hit follow, subscribe, like, share, everything like that, because we do this for free. And so your likes, shares, comments, and all of that, follows, subscribes, the usual is what keeps this going. So appreciate you. And I'll see you.